Hi everybody, we're here with Miss Ora Diehl, VP-elect for the NCHA Vice Presidency this year. Ora, we're just going to ask you a few questions, kind of let everybody that doesn't already know you kind of get to know you a little bit better. Tell us, everybody's got a story about how they first got hooked on cutting. What's your story?
Oh boy. Let's see. We went to our first possible outing to a state fair that was in Tampa. We walked into a livestock building and we heard people hooting and hauling and yipping and making these funny noises, and we're thinking, oh boy, what is going on here? Yeah. You know, Frank and I both had rode horses as kids and had gotten away from it, and had Curry with us, and he was wanting to get involved in cutting, or in horses basically, yeah. And didn't know where we were going, and we watched and we're thinking, what in the world are they doing? Yeah. Had no clue, yeah. Absolutely no clue. And of course I don't meet a stranger, so I one of the people that were yipping and hollering, I said, can you tell us what's going on here? And of course they did. Yeah. Just sat down and told us, you know, hook, line, and sinker what was going on. What a fun grassroots beginning we got. Right. We ended up joining this club, becoming involved in it, and cutting out in dairy pastures and right. all kinds of. It was the Gold Coast Cutting Horse Association, okay. And they probably were the epitome of grassroots. Right. And you could just. You just felt like you went to a family reunion every time you went to a cutting. Right. Yeah, yeah, it was great. It was really great. That's how we got started, basically. Yeah.
Well, speaking of memorable cuttings, what is a cutting now? You've been to quite a few since then. What's a memorable cutting that stands out to you?
Well, we hosted the Tomato Futurity. Yeah. And boy, you talk about getting the learning curve real quick. Oh boy. We started with backgrounding some cattle for the Mormon ranch, and it just grew and grew and grew. But what was the most fun I can possibly tell you was the satisfaction and the units that came, you know, from Texas to us, or from Kansas, or from the East Coast. The support was incredible. Yeah. And to have your fellow competitors and peers come and support you. Yeah. That was grateful.
Yeah, it was a destination cutting. I was lucky enough to be able to attend as well. But,
yes, you were.
I mean, it's always nice to go to a new cutting, but somewhere outside of the area where we normally show. And
yes,
so, yeah.
Yes, I got you.
So memorable shows. What about a horse that stood out to you over the years that you've owned or shown? I mean, have you got a special one that kind of stands out to you?
I have several. Probably my most favorite was my Futurity finalist, and that was Emily Ray.
Emily Ray.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah. Well, yes. I mean, special memories obviously create special horses too.
Absolutely, so, yeah. Absolutely, yeah. Absolutely.
So coming from Florida, how are the shows different down there compared to, you know, Texas area, let's say?
Well, I think that if you could equate a Florida show to here, is that what you're asking? Yeah. The competition level is heightened here. In Florida, we're more of a family reunion. Yeah. More laid back. It's pretty serious here. Yeah. Yeah. It's pretty serious here.
More of a club cutting atmosphere back
Absolutely.
there. I mean, I've judged a few down there, and that's one thing that stood out to me.
Yes.
Yeah,
yes.
For sure.
Yes.
So what about if you could pick anybody, past or present, that you could have a chance to sit down and have dinner with and pick their brain a little bit, who comes to mind?
Oh wow, I'm a history buff.
Yeah.
I love history, and I probably would have to split that with Buster Welch, and Matlock.
Matlock,
yes.
Yeah, two legends. So you have a large tomato farm back in Florida. Obviously, that's your main business, and you've gotten into cattle and horses now. So how do all three of those kind of tie together for you?
Well, they pay for the play. There's no way other to say it.
Absolutely.
However, when we started farming Frank started farming 50 years ago. He didn't have a legacy, so to speak, to say that this is where I was going to be. And when we married, I brought to the table some banking and some auditing and experience in that way, because that's what my background is. Well, as we got together, we realized that our industry, tomato industry, and the cutting horse industry could work together.
Right.
Okay. So when we finished our first purchase of our horses, we put a tomato brand on them. And like you say, people ask you, is that a ring, diamond ring, or is that a bomb?
Right.
And when you tell them that it's a tomato,
Yeah.
they're like, what does that got to do
Right.
with cutting horses?
Yep.
Well, it would allow you to cross over industries and tell them a little bit about what's going on in the agricultural world
Right.
as far as produce is concerned.
Sure.
We've educated some people that wouldn't probably have been educated about horses
Sure.
through seeing that tomato brand
yeah.
on their side.
Yeah.
There's
Yeah.
a win-win.
So what made you decide to run for vice president?
Mark, I'll tell you, I simply just want to give back.
Yeah.
In my eyes, we are past the point of respecting our membership to the due diligence that we need to give back,
Right.
rather than take all the time.
Yeah.
And if I have a skill that I can help, shame on me for not raising my hand and saying, hey, I'm ready to do this.
Right.
I was very involved back in probably 2000, and then got kind of complacent, and then realizing that if we don't do something and we don't take the bull by the horns, my grandgirls may not have an industry to
Right.
play in, and they idolize the cowboy image. They like walking around in their boots and their spurs
Sure.
with their leotards on. And I am just, it was a family atmosphere that Frank and I raised our boys in, and I want to perpetuate that. And I can't walk away without trying.
Yeah.
And that's my mission.
Yeah.
I want to hear from the membership. My dad always told me that you've got 2 ears, you need to listen twice as much as you talk.
Yeah.
That's hard for me to do
It is.
because I don't meet many strangers.
Yeah.
However, I am trying really, really hard to listen and bring to the table, let some people understand that this is what I'm hearing and we need to act on some of these things, and give that respect back to them.
Yeah.
I think we can go a long, long way in fixing something that didn't get broken overnight,
Yeah.
and it's certainly not going to get fixed overnight.
Right.
But we all can pull together and hope to do that.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that's great.
Yep.
Well, listen, we wish you all the best.
Thank you.
Good luck with your campaign, and we look forward to seeing what happens. So remember to get out and vote.
Thank you.
Ballots are open right now. You guys, members, have received emails, or you can go contact NCHA if you haven't. But get online and vote. So good luck.
Thank you. Thank you, sir.
All right.